What if you could run one of the world's largest companies while actually getting enough sleep?
What if you puttered around the house every morning instead of rushing to work?
Or what if your lack of sleep caused you to collapse from exhaustion and break your cheekbone?
Let's find out what's really happening.
So Jeff Bezos really sleeps 8 hours every single night.
He strictly protects his 8 hours. While most top executives brag about surviving on 3 or 4 hours of sleep, Bezos has a completely different approach.
How does Bezos manage to build an empire without burning the midnight oil?
That's what we need to investigate. Here's what you'll discover. The real reason Jeff Bezos protects his sleep. How Bezos manages high-quality decisions. Vocabulary successful people use. What happened in 2007 to Arianna Huffington that caused her to collapse. And a free PDF with vocabulary and routine. Stay to the end for the full story.
Welcome to English Steps, where we learn real English through morning routines of successful people.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Sam.
Today, Jeff Bezos' morning and sleep routine.
Let's understand their routine A&D learn vocabulary. You probably set your alarm for 6 a.m. today, groaned when it went off, and just drag yourself out of bed.
Oh, absolutely. We've all been there.
Right, because we've all been taught that to be successful, you have to suffer. Like, you have to sacrifice rest. But today, we are going on a really fascinating deep dive.
We really are. We're looking at a huge stack of sources today.
Yeah, including direct interviews with Jeff Bezos from Thrive Global, alongside some very, very heavy scientific medical journals. Our mission is to uncover the actual cognitive science behind his remarkably relaxed routine. We want to see why doing less might actually be the secret to achieving more.
It really is a fascinating contrast. In the modern business world, you just constantly hear about hustle culture.
Oh, yeah, everywhere.
The idea that you must work every waking second. But Bezos has a strict, non-negotiable requirement for 8 hours of sleep. He says it is the exact amount he needs to feel fully energized and excited about his day.
So he deliberately optimized his sleep routine to get better results across his entire life.
Exactly. He optimized it completely.
I want to focus on that word for a second. We hear it a lot in business, but how exactly do you optimize something as basic as sleep? Because to optimize means to completely redesign something to make it as effective as possible.
Right. And by committing to those 8 hours, Bezos optimizes his brain's biological functions. He isn't just lying in bed, resting his eyes,
Yeah.
He is actively repairing his brain tissue so it performs at its absolute peak the next day.
Wow.
But he has a very specific way of looking at the math of sleep that explains why he does this.
Oh, right. The math. I saw this in his interviews, and it really made me stop and think. Bezos says, imagine if you only sleep 4 hours a night. That means you get 16 productive waking hours instead of 12.
Yep, the math checks out.
Right, which is basically 33% more time to be awake. Now, wait a minute. If he gets 33% more time, shouldn't a CEO want those extra hours?
You would think so.
Yeah, if I have a third more time in my day, I get more done. Why wouldn't someone running Amazon want more time?
Well, it sounds perfectly logical on paper, doesn't it? More hours equals more output. But when we dig into the medical literature, we see exactly why that mathematical logic is a complete trap.
A trap.
Yeah. Partial sleep deprivation doesn't just make you yawn, it actively ruins the quality of every single decision you make during those extra hours. There is a specific biological process in your brain called the glymphatic system that explains why.
The glymphatic system. Yeah, I saw that term in the medical journals, but honestly, it sounded incredibly complicated. What exactly is this system doing while we are, unconscious?
Well, think of it as your brain's internal plumbing, like a sanitation network. During the day, as you are awake and thinking, your brain cells are firing constantly.
Okay, that makes sense.
They are burning energy, and as a byproduct of that energy use, they actually produce toxic waste. One of these major waste products is a sticky protein called beta amyloid.
Wait, really? So just by being awake and thinking, our brains are literally polluting themselves.
Precisely. Now, when you enter deep sleep, something mechanical and honestly amazing happens. Your brain cells literally shrink in size.
They shrink.
They physically contract, yeah. This creates extra space, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to rush in and wash through the brain tissue like a power washer.
What?
It flushes out all that toxic beta amyloid waste. It is exactly like a night cleaning crew coming into a busy, messy office building and hosing down all the floors.
Okay, I love that image.
Yeah.
So if you shortchange your sleep, say you only sleep for 4 hours, like you mentioned in the math example, the night crew just doesn't get enough time to finish the job.
Exactly. The floors don't get mopped, the trash cans aren't empty, the waste builds up, And the next morning, your brain is quite literally marinating in its own toxic waste.
That sounds terrible.
It is. The physical environment of your brain is polluted, which means your neurons can't fire properly. Your decision-making instantly breaks down.
That makes complete sense. If you shortchange your sleep, your productivity is just an illusion. You might be awake, your eyes might be open, but you are operating through this, thick layer of biological smog.
You are awake, but you are not truly functioning. Which brings us to the very next part of his routine, what Bezos does the exact moment he finally wakes up with that perfectly clean brain.
Yes, his morning routine is surprisingly relaxed. I mean, most of us grab our phones and immediately panic over our emails the second we open our eyes.
Oh, absolutely guilty of that.
Right. But he doesn't do that. He likes to do what he calls puttering. To putter just means to move around the house doing small, relaxed tasks without any rush or stress.
Just taking it easy.
Yeah, he reads a physical newspaper, drinks his coffee, and most importantly, eats breakfast with his kids. So he actually chooses to prioritize family time over urgent business matters.
Exactly. It is a highly conscious choice. He deliberately chooses to prioritize a slow, quiet morning to protect his mental energy.
Because he needs it for later.
Right. He knows that if he wants his brain to function at its absolute best later in the day, he must prioritize high-quality choices. And that requires a completely calm start.
You know, unlike Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, who rises at 3:45 a.m. to aggressively start tackling his inbox, Bezos prefers a slow, quiet start. But I have to ask, is there a biological reason for this too?
Oh, definitely.
Does a slow, puttering morning actually change how the brain operates?
It absolutely does, and the medical journals map this out incredibly clearly. It has everything to do with two very specific parts of your brain. The amygdala, which is the emotional center that processes stress and fear, and the medial prefrontal cortex.
Okay, let me make sure I understand this. The prefrontal cortex is the logical control center, right? Like the smart, rational CEO of the brain that keeps the emotional, panicking amygdala in check.
You've got it. A full night of sleep, followed by a calm morning, acts like a strong, thick cable connecting those two areas.
Making sure they communicate.
Right, so the logical brain stays firmly in control of the emotional brain. But medical studies show that when you lack sleep, or when you immediately flood your brain with panic and stress by reading urgent emails the second you wake up, that connection physically weakens and breaks.
The cable snaps.
And when it snaps, you experience what researchers call a hyperlimbic reaction.
A hyperlimbic reaction.
Yeah.
Meaning your raw emotions just completely take over.
Yes, exactly.
You become grouchy, you snap at your family, and in a business setting, you start making emotionally reactive, risky decisions instead of logical, calculated ones.
Exactly. There was a fascinating scoping review we looked at from MDPI. They actually put sleep-deprived people experiencing that hyperlimbic reaction into driving simulators and gambling tasks.
And what happened?
Without the prefrontal cortex in control, those people took massive, irrational risks. Bezos knows that if he starts his day stressed out, his logical brain loses control for the rest of the day.
So he uses his morning puttering to keep his brain calm and keep that connection strong. But how does he protect that calm state once the actual workday starts? I mean, he runs Amazon and Blue Origin. These are not relaxed environments.
No, not at all.
The stress has to hit eventually, right?
It does, but he protects it with a very rigid, almost inflexible schedule. He strictly schedules his high IQ, mentally challenging meetings for 10 a.m.
Just 10 a.m.
Yeah, and by 5 p.m., he stops thinking about hard issues entirely. He literally tells his staff, I can't think more about this issue today. Let's try this again tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Wait, come on. He built one of the most powerful companies in history. You're telling me if a massive server farm catches fire and goes offline at 5:01 p.m., he just goes home to make dinner and ignores it?
Well, there is an important difference between an acute emergency and a proactive strategic decision. If the building is literally on fire, of course he acts.
Okay, fair enough.
But for complex future-defining strategy like deciding to buy a new company or changing a massive global policy, he simply refuses to do it late in the day. Why? Because constant context switching between easy, mundane tasks and incredibly hard decisions burns massive amounts of mental energy.
Let's clarify that term for our listeners. Context switching means constantly changing tasks.
Right.
Like jumping frantically from answering a simple email to making a massive financial decision and then immediately back to reading an email.
Right. Doing it this much destroys your focus. Every single time you shift gears and switch contexts, your brain consumes a massive amount of glucose. You are literally draining the battery.
Wow. I want to tie this back to a concept I saw in the research called the synaptic homeostasis hypothesis, or SHY for short.
Hmm.
I couldn't quite wrap my head around it at first. What exactly is shrinking in my brain during this process?
It's a brilliant concept that explains the physical cost of our workday. Synapses are the tiny connections between the neurons in your brain. Throughout your day, as you learn new things, answer emails, and make hard decisions, these synaptic connections get physically thicker, stronger, and completely saturated with information.
I was trying to picture this earlier. It's almost like a forest path, right?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like in the early morning, it's a wide open, clear trail. But as the day goes on, more and more people walk on it, branches fall across it, it gets incredibly crowded, muddy, and eventually it's impossible to navigate quickly.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. By 5 p.m., your neural pathways are that muddy, crowded forest path. You cannot force new high-level information through them.
Because there's just no room.
Right. The SHY theory explains that sleep downscales or shrinks those synapses back to their normal baseline size. Sleep clears the path, reduces all that background noise in your brain, and saves energy so you can learn again the next day.
Because his brain is fresh at 10 a.m., he tackles the hardest problems then. By limiting his hardest meetings to that morning window, Bezos is working with his biology, not against it.
Exactly.
He avoids overloading those pathways. And, this rigid structure really fits perfectly into his overall philosophy on life. We always hear people talking about work-life balance, but Bezos actually says he hates that phrase. He focuses on work-life harmony.
What stands out to you about that specific choice of words? Why do you think he insists on harmony instead of balance?
Well, balance implies a strict trade-off. It's a zero-sum game, like a physical scale. If the work side goes up and gets heavier, your personal life must go down. But harmony is totally different.
Oh, so?
Harmony is like a choir. You have different voices, the work voice, the family voice, the personal time voice, all singing together to make the whole song better. Bezos argues that being happy and relaxed at home gives him the energy to be a ruthless, effective CEO, and being successful at work makes him a happier father and husband. They feed into each other.
It is a profound shift in mindset. And if we look at the other highly successful people in our sources, we see a very similar shift happening across the business world.
Really? Like who?
Well, while Bill Gates used to proudly survive on quick cat naps under his desk in the early days of Microsoft, he now publicly states that he requires at least 7 hours of sleep just to stay sharp and creative.
And Mark Bertolini, the former CEO of Aetna, went even further than just talking about it.
Yeah.
He literally paid his employees up to $500 a year just to sleep 7 hours a night.
That's incredible.
Right. He tracked the company's internal data and found that well-rested employees made better decisions, and those better decisions directly led to higher profits.
They all realize a fundamental truth. Quantity of work absolutely does not equal quality of work. Bezos actually quotes the legendary investor Warren Buffett on this exact point.
What does he say?
Warren Buffett says he considers it a highly successful year if he makes just 3 good decisions.
3 decisions a year. That is the ultimate focus on quality over quantity.
But this raises an incredibly important question for all of us. What happens when we ignore this advice? Because, let's be honest, society still heavily rewards the hustle.
Oh, definitely. People still brag about pulling all-nighters.
Right. And in 2007, Arianna Huffington, the founder of the Huffington Post, was the ultimate example of this. She was burning the midnight oil, working extreme, punishing hours.
And it caught up with her, didn't it?
It did. Eventually, she collapsed in her office from pure exhaustion, hit her head on her desk, and broke her cheekbone. She later said, and I quote, "We are living under the collective delusion that we need to burn out in order to succeed." So even she knows this hustle culture is a dangerous, flawed assessment of how humans actually work.
Wow. Waking up in a pool of blood with a broken cheekbone just because you're too tired to sit up in a chair. We tie that back to the biology we discussed. Her brain was marinating in that toxic beta amyloid. Her amygdala had completely disconnected from her prefrontal cortex. Her body just forcibly shut itself down.
It had to. It had no choice.
So her current routine, where she is a massive advocate for sleep, is a realization that she had to fundamentally change her life.
Exactly. Sleeping 4 hours isn't a badge of productivity. It's a massive health risk. Is a lifestyle like that sustainable long-term?
Definitely not.
The medical science says absolutely not. The human brain simply cannot maintain constant wakefulness. It is not sustainable without causing permanent, irreversible damage.
And the real-world consequences of this go way beyond breaking a cheekbone at a desk. The MDPI medical study we looked at highlighted some terrifying examples. They actually traced the historic crash of the Italia airship, a massive Zeppelin disaster, where the ship crashed into the ice directly back to the commander's severe sleep fatigue.
They also heavily documented how medical residents, the young doctors working 24-hour shifts in hospitals, make significantly more medication errors and surgical mistakes when they are deprived of sleep.
That's scary.
When the brain's pathways are crowded and polluted, terrible errors happen.
When you look at the big picture, the human body has incredibly strict limits. So what's the ultimate lesson here for the listener? We aren't all billionaires, but we all have mornings and we all have to make decisions.
The lesson is that Bezos found a harmony that works specifically for his biology. Yours might differ slightly. Don't just blindly copy his schedule, find what works for you.
Because everything's a trade-off, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to choose what matters.
Exactly. Bezos prioritizes making 3 high-quality decisions over making 100 low-quality ones. That is a conscious choice, not a mistake or a sign of laziness.
And Huffington's terrible crisis really showed the absolute limits of the human body. You can't cheat your own biology forever.
A sustainable approach isn't about maximum effort every single minute. It's about what you can successfully maintain over decades. You might optimize for completely different things in your own life. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a rather unsettling thought from the medical literature we reviewed.
What is it?
Scientific studies show that when you chronically restrict your sleep to 5 or 6 hours a night, your brain eventually adapts to the feeling of being tired. You physically stop feeling exhausted, so you convince yourself you are doing fine.
Oh, that's wild.
But when scientists actually test the cognitive abilities of these people, they still show severe impairment. So ask yourself, are your good decisions actually impaired right now without you even realizing it?
That is a terrifying thought. We might think we are running our own empires perfectly, but without sleep, we are just blindly puttering toward a broken cheekbone. Let's recap vocabulary.
Optimize. Make effective. Bezos optimized his sleep schedule to make better choices.
Prioritize. Focus on important. Bezos prioritizes family breakfast over emails.
Context switching. Changing tasks. Bezos avoids context switching to save mental energy.
Sustainable. Maintainable long-term. Is Arianna Huffington's old routine sustainable? No.
Real business words, you'll hear them everywhere.
You understand them in context now. Bonus for watching through. Download Jeff Bezos' Morning Routine PDF. Includes 4 vocabulary words with examples, grammar patterns, comparison chart, Jeff Bezos versus Tim Cook and Bill Gates, reflection, questions, sources. Exclusive for full viewers. Check description. Download now.
Your turn. Comment in English.
What does your morning routine look like?
Use T2O vocabulary words. Optimize, prioritize, context switching, sustainable.
Are you a morning putterer or do you rush out the door?
Post comments pinned. We read all.
Share your thinking. Next on English Steps. Tim Cook and his 3.45 a.m. routine. The power of waking up before the world.
We'll compare philosophies.
Subscribe so you don't miss it.
Thanks for learning with us.
See you next time.